Welcome to Love Yourself, the podcast where we break down the reasons why you aren't losing weight and help you discover confidence, self-worth, and resilience all along the way. Weight loss isn't a knowledge problem, it's a thinking problem, and I'm here to show you how to lose weight with your brain, not another diet plan. So as you listen, notice what resonates with you, and if something clicks or you want to go deeper, I would love for you to book a call with me right after the episode. Menopause did not ruin your body. Here's what actually did. Welcome back to Love Yourself Thin podcast. I'm Dara, and this is episode 268. Today, we're going to be talking about menopause and specifically about the story so many of us have been told that once you hit menopause, your body basically turns against you, that weight gain is inevitable, that your metabolism just shuts down overnight, that there is nothing you can do but accept it. I want to bring you the actual research today because some of what you've been told is true and a lot of it isn't. And once we separate the two, I want to show you what I think is actually going on underneath it because it's usually not what you think. Let's get into it. When I think about my experience about weight loss, this is actually when it all started. I've struggled with my weight since my early 20s. But I felt like I was getting a handle on that and things were going okay until perimenopause hit. And in my brain, I had some sort of thinking that if I didn't get my weight loss under control by the time I hit perimenopause, I was hooped and that I would gain 5 pounds a year for the rest of my life. And for some reason, I thought that was true. And so I remember sitting at my kitchen table doing the math that no matter what I did, I would just gain 5 pounds a year. And that by the time I was retired at 65, I would be 305 pounds. And there is no way that I could be the kind of grandma or live the kind of retirement that I wanted at 305 pounds. Let's look at what's really going on. And just so you know, spoiler alert, here I am at 52. I've been in menopause now for a year, and I have maintained that 55 plus weight loss, and I don't track calories or count steps, and I don't rely on exercise to do any of that. And so I think I know a thing or two about what's really going on. I also help hundreds of women lose thousands of pounds, and we all have that same story. Let's go to point number 1. The hormone story is real, but it's not the whole story. I know what you might be saying to me, Dara. There's research that shows that you do gain weight during menopause. I hear you. So let's go into it, okay? As a life coach and as doing my master's degree in counseling, I love researching. I love understanding how the brain and body work together. Let's start with what's actually true because I don't want to dismiss what you're feeling in your body right now. Hormone changes during menopause are real. So as estrogen declines, fat tends to shift toward the abdomen, right? That's documented. That's not in dispute. And if you've noticed your shape changing, even without a big change on the scale, that's real. Physically, it's a physical thing that's happened. But here's where it gets interesting. So major medical research is actually consistent on this next part, and it might surprise you. Hormones alone don't cause the weight gain itself. What actually drives most of the weight gain in this stage of life is a combination of aging and muscle loss. The same combination that affects men as they get older as well, menopause or not. So there was a major study published in the journal Science in 2021. And researchers actually measured metabolism directly across the entire human lifespan. And what they found is that there's no sudden metabolic collapse at menopause. So metabolic rate doesn't even start meaningfully declining until closer to the age 60. And even then, it's gradual, about 1% a year, not some cliff you fall off the day your period stops. And here's the number I think matters. The typical weight gain during menopausal transition is more modest than we think. We're talking 5 to 10 pounds on average. So, not that dramatic, unrecognizable body transformation so many of us fear. And honestly, so many of us have already decided is happening to us before it even does. So, what we think and what we expect, what we think is what we get. So, if we expect that, then our brain wants to be right. And so it's going to prove it right. So, if you've been quietly convincing yourself that your body is betraying you at age 50, that menopause hijacked everything, then it's actually going to want to prove that that's true. So the actual short hormone shift is real, but it's much smaller than the story most of us are carrying around about it. All right. So if the hormones themselves aren't the main driver, then why does it feel so consuming? Why do so many of us spend hours, days, months thinking about this? And it doesn't really help that Instagram and YouTube and everything out there is just like shouting at us. That's where it gets interesting because I think something else is happening underneath. So let's go to the second point. Food noise becomes the thing you blame instead of menopause. Okay, so remember we talked about food noise. That's like thinking about food. We're thinking about our next meal even before we finish the first meal. We're thinking about snacks. We find ourselves in the kitchen a lot. We look at ourselves in outfits and our face and thinking, oh, our cheeks are chubby. Constantly thinking about our body, about food, about how we look, how you think people might perceive us. So that's all that food noise that we talked about. So here's why I see constantly in my work. Food noise, that constant mental chatter we talked about back in episode 264, often shows up as time spent thinking that menopause is responsible for your body not looking the way you want it to. And I want you to notice something about that sentence. It's not that menopause is happening. That part's true. But it's that menopause becomes the explanation, the story, the thing that you point to and says, that's just what happens now. When the actual mechanism, as we just talked about, is much smaller than the story you've built around it. So this is food noise doing exactly what it does. It gives your brain something concrete, something almost socially acceptable to obsess over. Your hormones are ruining my body, or my hormones are ruining my body, is a much easier sentence to say out loud than what's actually underneath it. So if menopause isn't the real explanation, what is? I want to take you somewhere a little more uncomfortable now because I think this is where the real answer is hiding. So there's this concept in psychology called experiential avoidance. It comes out of a well-established therapeutic approach called acceptance and commitment therapy. And it describes something very specific, the tendency to avoid situations or feelings that create emotional discomfort. Okay, who spends a lot of time trying to avoid emotional discomfort? And here's what the research shows. Avoiding the uncomfortable thing gives you a short-term relief. That relief feels good in the moment. So your brain enforces the avoidance and you're more likely to do it again next time. So researchers have found this pattern shows up again and again, specifically in eating behavior. How many of us love our chocolate, right? So I'm uncomfortable, go eat some chocolate. I'm uncomfortable, go scroll on my phone. So this is acceptance and commitment therapy. So researchers have found this pattern shows up again and again, specifically in eating behavior, using food-focused thinking as a way to sidestep something harder. So here's my own take on this. From years of coaching women through exactly this. Food noise is very often a buffer, specifically from complicated family and friend relationships, the stuff that's actually hard to sit with. So think about it in this way. It's a lot more comfortable to lie awake replaying what you ate at dinner than it is to lie awake thinking about the friendship that's quietly been draining you for 2 years, or your adult child you can't have a conversation with anymore without walking on eggshells, or the marriage that's gone quiet in ways you don't really want to look at and you don't want to take responsibility for, and you don't really know how to deal with it, but you're just so uncertain. So then what happens is the food thoughts are loud because they're safe. This is that predictable pain. And it actually feels productive because you say things like, I want to be more healthy. The relationship thoughts are the ones that you actually avoid. So now we're actually buffering. Instead of buffering with food and eating all the chocolate, we're buffering with thinking about all the food. So now that you can see what might actually be underneath the food noise, I want to give you something practical, because knowing this is one thing, catching it in the moment is another. So here's what I want you to do the next time you notice that food noise is spiking, that spiral about your body, your weight, what you're wearing, what people might think about you, what you're going to eat next. So I want you to pause and ask yourself one honest question. Is there something else I'm avoiding right now? So not as self-judgment, not as another way to beat yourself up. Heaven knows you do that enough already. Just genuine curiosity. Because when you have genuine curiosity, you're not being judgmental of yourself. Because sometimes the answer really is just hunger or tired. And that's fine too. But sometimes, if you're honest, the answer is a conversation you've been avoiding, a relationship you haven't looked at directly, a feeling you haven't let yourself feel fully. And I want to be really clear about something. This isn't about ignoring real menopause symptoms, please. Hot flashes are real. Sleep disruption is real. Fat redistribution we talked about is real. I'm not telling you to dismiss any of that. What I am telling you is don't let menopause become the explanation for everything. I call it a scapegoat. Sometimes the real answer is sitting one layer underneath it. And menopause just happens to be the easiest, most convenient place to point. So menopause changed your hormones. It didn't write the whole story of why you're struggling. And now the research actually agrees with me. So I want you to tell you about Anne. Anne was on my email list for 9 months before she actually reached out to me. 9 months of reading, listening, thinking about it, and not quite taking that step. Anne is a retired librarian. She knows a lot about a lot of things, and she knows a lot about weight loss. But once she finally decided to join, she realized after 52 days in the program and doing my 90-day drip by drip method, Anne has lost 11 pounds. And here's what I want you to really hear. She is not tracking a single step. She is not counting a single calorie. She is actually starting to work through all the emotional issues under her eating, the real ones, the ones that she didn't even realize she was struggling with. That's what happens when you stop treating the symptom and start treating the actual cause. So I run on summer hours right now for how many spots are available for free coaching for you to see what are your actual issues for why you can't lose the weight that you want to lose. And so I don't want you to wait 9 months of reading, listening, and thinking about it, because Anne is so much happier because she's finally doing the work. So go and book your call today. I'll see you. As you're leaving this episode, I want you to take a moment and notice what stood out for you. What did you learn about yourself? What felt true? And where are you ready to start thinking differently? Remember, this work isn't about doing more. It's about understanding how your brain is working right now and learning how to shift it in a way that's always going to support you. And you don't have to do that alone. If you're ready to stop second guessing yourself, stop feeling stuck, and start creating real momentum in your life, I would love to help you. You can book a call with me and we'll look at what's really going on for you and what your next step can be. I'll talk to you. I can't wait to talk to you.